This is Dr. Chris's radio horror program talking about a movie that just got a whole lot of Oscar buzz that we're going to talk about. And yeah, it came out a few months ago, but we waited for the review of this movie for the Oscars as well as the DVD Blu ray release of the film Joker, based on the DC Comics character, but not part of the DCU, which is connected with films like Wonder Woman and Shazam. And to join us to talk about this Oscar worthy film is Katie, the blonde in front of fear.
Hello, hello. Yes, this is no joke. The Joker is one of my favorite films of 2019, directed by Todd Fields and starring Joaquin Phoenix, Zazie Beetz, and Francis Conroy. Joaquin Phoenix plays Arthur Fleck, who is just a guy trying to be a stand-up comedian, making a living to take care of his mom. He's a good guy. He's got some issues, like we all do, but he has a job as a clown, doing anything he can. And I mean, from the get-go of this film, you see the violence that is put upon him. He has this disability where when he's in a situation that is both uncomfortable and puts him at unease, he starts laughing uncontrollably. And this is a man that he is, it's just, I don't know. It's like he's laughing, but you can see the physical pain that is going, that is emitting from him. And the audience can see that too. Now, first and foremost, this is a modern day taxi driver set in a DC universe. Throughout the story, you see this is Arthur's story. I don't know if there's a scene that doesn't have Arthur in it. If it is very small, but you feel empathy for this character from the beginning. And then there are some actions that happen that for me turn from empathy to anger. I thought that was brilliant because, I mean, to have that in such a way that you're like, why? I feel sorry for this man, but also it's like you don't have to do this. Now, the acting is absolutely superb in this film, but again, it is a screenplay because the screenplay not only captures everything about Arthur Fleck, the DC universe, and the things going on in Gotham, but it also pinpoints and says so much about class structure, mental illness, abuse, and the descent of human decency that honestly really affected me. I think the music is fantastic. I thought the direction was great. I thought the performance from Joaquin Phoenix is honestly one of the best of his career and definitely the best, one of the best performances by a male actor in 2019. I could definitely, Oscar nominations for direction, screenplay, cinematography, score, and actor. I do think it will get screenplay though, because I think that was one of the biggest standout to me. And the fact that when I'm going into this film, I had no clue that Robert De Niro was in it. That was a nice little twist that I didn't even see until I'm sitting in the theater. I think this says so much about so many different things. Like when someone said they were taking their kid to see a comic book movie, I'm like, that's not what this is. I say this is a comic book movie. This is a movie that has characters that have been in a comic book, but this is not a comic book movie. So don't think you're taking them to see like a Marvel film. One of the best of the years for me. Like, honestly, I thought it said so much. I thought it did so much. And I thought this is what cinema needs to be more like, is showing this. I mean, obviously some major influences from Martin Scorsese. So you might just want to see Taxi Driver and King Comedy and stuff like that. But this is a movie to see. And yeah, I mean, I could quote different things from the film, but basically I just want to say, go see it.
You mentioned the music. You're aware of the controversy with his dancing song, right?
I am very aware of that. And that was one of the things when I was watching it. It's like, there's tons of songs you can do. You don't have to do it by a guy who had like hundreds of child pornography on his computer or in his whereabouts, who is still in jail because of that. But I also think that Todd Fields knew exactly what he was doing when he did that. There's nothing that is taken to chance, and there's nothing that isn't stuff that's going to manipulate the audience and their reactions. Like, this is a very smart man doing this. So, that's how I feel about that.
What do you think about shoehorning in Batman's origin for no reason whatsoever? Like, I could have done with that entire thing. That's fine. Have Thomas in there, but we didn't need to see Martha, Alfred, or Bruce whatsoever. I could have been fine with just Thomas being a giant a-hole. That's been done before. Now, in the comic books today, Thomas is pretty much a philanthropist. He's always been perceived as a good guy. This is giving the name to the Joker as well. We've had Jack Napier as the name of the Joker in the 89 Batman movie, and now on Batwoman, the current CW television series starring the lesbian superhero, Jack Napier was named as the Joker as well. This is giving a new name to the Joker. It seems like the Joker has multiple origin stories, and there's never going to be one definitive origin for the Joker, which is fine because it keeps the Joker a mystery. The comic books have still to this day always put the Joker's name as unknown, date of birth, unknown, relatives, unknown, possibly wife and unborn child. Hence the Killing Joke, which is the story where he shoots Barbara in the guts or whatever and crippling her from the waist down, ending her career as Batgirl, and then proceeds to tell his background story as we saw it in the 89 Batman movie. What did you think about all of that extra Batman stuff, which, again, not really necessary, I think?
Think it is necessary, especially when, people do. I mean, this is supposed to be the Joker. It's supposed to be regarding a DC character, and you need to have, other DC characters to solidify that this is what this is. It's not just a guy who's like taking on, the city and society and politics and with his mental illness. It's the reason why, the whole thing about Thomas Wayne, I thought was great. And, as you mentioned with Alfred, those are two characters in films, because I haven't read any of this stuff, but in the films that I always think get a hero welcome, and they are put on a pedestal, and you see them as two men who, they make the big deal about, they always say it's like, oh, your mom was crazy, she was all this. Okay, so what are you saying about Gotham that you would have, you're saying this woman has a mental instability, but she's able to adopt a child? I don't buy that. I don't buy this whole thing that they keep telling him. And I don't buy that, you try and do the whole thing with the woman is crazy stuff. And that's making these men. They're not gods. They're not the above all be all. And it's also showing Batman, it's like, they could actually be brothers. And they're just two people, like, he goes right up to him. Like, why are these kids just going right up to strangers in these films? Like, I don't get it. It happened in It happened in a few other things. Like, no wonder these kids are getting killed. But I liked that, he had no fear, and he shouldn't, and that was one of the only times when you see him in the film, Arthur Fleck, he's with, this child, and he doesn't have like a violent laughing reaction because he's feeling at ease. And then when Alfred comes along and he starts doing stuff, then he starts to do the laughing stuff. And like that, to me, I think was a small part of the film, but it says so much, honestly, that I'm just reflecting on right now. But yeah, I thought it was very necessary to bring, to have that little bit of, showing Batman's origin story, and also leading that up into possibly a Todd Field sequel or whatever he can do. I don't know how they do. They wouldn't be able to have Joaquin Phoenix be the Joker at like 50 something, but or more than that.
This takes place what, in 1980? Are we saying 1980 something or 1970?
79 to 82 or 3, I think. You've got that grittiness.
Okay.
And again, this is very much Scorsese. That looks like Scorsese, New York during that time. That's why I immediately went to Taxi Driver when I saw it.
Yeah, and The Comedian, which was a movie, or the stand-up comedian. What was the comedian movie Robert De Niro did?
The King of Comedy.
King of Comedy, right. The Joker then would be almost, let's say Bruce becomes Batman in his 20s. The Joker then would be in his 50s, and by the time Bruce is established as Batman with all his Robins, the Joker's now almost in his 60s or 70s. Are you familiar with Game of Thrones?
Yes.
Okay, what is the name of the actor on Game of Thrones that was loyal to Daenerys Targaryen and then died in the last season? He was the guy with the crippling skin condition, and he was perceived to be like an assassin, and Jonas or whatever, right?
Yeah, Jarrus, something like that.
Okay, so in Titans, the current DC app show, he is now playing Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
And I'm like, this is the oldest actor now to play Bruce Wayne. This guy is like in his late 50s, this actor. And he is now the oldest actor to play Bruce Wayne, which would mean that in order for him to have been Bruce Wayne right now in 2019, which I'm assuming is when Titans take place or whatever, this Joker origin for Bruce has to have been like in line with this, I guess. Or this is setting up, like they said, somebody else to become the Joker. If you watched Gotham, that's something they did a lot on that show. Or it's going to be its own standalone movie, which a lot of people think it should be. And we don't need a sequel to this film. And Todd Phillips has said, I don't want to do it. But Jack Keaton said, I would come back to do this a second time.
I think Joaquin would do a great job if he came back a second time. But I think it needs to be the right script. Because the fact is, like, this one was so good. And I don't want them to try and do something like a year later and rush it and then mess it up. But, I mean, I don't know. I think when someone becomes this, they flip the switch when it goes like a 180 in their personality, because he was not a bad guy. He was like in a bad situation. He had this disability that was forced upon him. This is not something he was born with. To find out that everything that had set him back, especially this disability, could have been prevented, and the way he found out was just heartbreaking. That's one of those things, especially with as old as he is, I don't see someone coming back from that. So when, people are like, oh, he's going to be this old. Yeah, but he's not going to be able to forgive anything. It's not like he's like, oh, through time, he'll be able to like, oh, it's fine. No, I mean, the deed's done. He's like been lied to for 30 something years. It's like now he wants to, make sure that anyone who treats him badly, feels what that's like. So if they did do a sequel, I could see it happening. And I mean, people look good 20 years later. I mean, I can't think of a evil person that does now, but I mean, dictators don't have an age. Ruthless people in politics, they don't seem to be getting any younger. They seem to be getting older and older. So I could see it happening. But that's just my thought.
I think they should do this with more Batman villains. Good way to kind of end this review. A couple ideas that have been thrown around is possibly a sci-fi romantic tragedy movie involving Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze's origin would definitely make an excellent movie all by itself, without Batman involved. A man trying to save his wife's wife in an evil corporation mucks it up and accidentally kills his wife, or puts her even further down the death tube, and he has to become this villain due to the accident called Mr. Freeze. Courtroom drama of split personality disorder for Harvey Dent Two-Face. Or how about a horror story involving a man who thinks that bat DNA is the best way to go to enhance human abilities and transforms himself into a grotesque man-bat creature? Many different ideas for villains having their own standalone movie that don't involve the bat. That's kind of like what Sony is doing with the Spider-Man villains. Venom and Morbius is next. Black Cat is up for grabs. God only knows if they'll do that. And now with the Disney acquisition of Spider-Man going forward a lot smoother than it was a few months ago, we're definitely going to see some more villains getting their own movies. Lex Luthor would make his own movie. Lex Luthor getting his own movie would be perfect as well without any Superman involvement. These are other great things that I think could happen along the lines. Joker definitely opened up the gateways for Hollywood to take chances on obscure and really bizarre movies that we haven't seen in years, with some characters that don't need to be bogged down by 30 other films, like the Marvel MCU films. Thank you again, Katie, for joining me for this excellent review of Joker and all of its Oscar buzz. Pick it up on DVD, Blu-ray, digital download, or whatever. Check it out. It is an excellent movie. Don't watch it with the kids. Not that it's just not inappropriate. It's just also, I think, kind of a slog at times for children, whereas adults would totally get into it. Check out the rest of the reviews here on the Radio Horror YouTube channel.